So I'm doing a French seam. A French seam, you're gonna pin your or like I use blanket clips, together, and then you're gonna stitch just 1/4 of an inch. So I'm gonna line it up with the edge of this, and that's 1/4 of an inch. And then you just do a straight stitch, removing the clips as you go. Well, as I go, that's what I'm doing. So I gotta quit filming. I'm gonna do my stitches, and then it gets ironed, but I'll get to that. So I've ironed it. Now I am gonna go right along that seam and cut off about half. So that's gonna leave about 1/8 of an inch. So that's what I'm gonna do to both sides. So I had to change my working space because my big giant iron died. Now I've got it trimmed off on both sides to do my French seam. So we have one stitch already. So we have a stitch inside. So we're just gonna flip it inside out. And then so what this is gonna do, there's a seam already, but we've got to roll it. So I'm gonna roll it, and I'm going to push this and get that as least as possible, and I'm gonna iron that down. Then I'm gonna do a regular stitch up the side. So on the inside of the garment, this is gonna be finished. There's not gonna be any ravelings that'll be seen. And then the outside, because we're going to stitch it again, it's going to be stitched and there's going to be no ravelings. This is the best way. I wish I would have done this forever. This is the first time I'm trying it, but I wish I would have always known this to do it on garments. I've made skirts and stuff before. Ravelings are irritating. So this little iron is from Temu. Don't knock it till you try it, okay? And it's on, it's got power. So I'm literally going through this, rolling it down to where, pulling out my seam as flat as I can get it, and just going down and ironing it flat. Got to do that for both sides, but that's not a good example. Hold on. I went and got an extension cord and I moved again. This is oh my gosh. I don't care, it's just what it is. This is my tiny iron from Temu. Yes, it has like a, I don't know, a plug for a, anyway, it works, okay? My big iron just died. I don't know what's happening. So this is it. And I'm trying to iron down this French seam. So I'm taking my hand and I'm running it up the side of this dress. And I'm pressing my finger and walking my little iron down the edge of this seam. Because I've got to get it flat to where I can stitch it again. So this little iron just worked. And to do the French seam, so this is not the raw edges. We've stitched it once, and I just ironed that flat, and I'm gonna go down this and stitch it again. But I've got to iron the other side. So this is me ironing the other side. So this is the non-iron side. See, it's like all floppy. There's a lot of space here where the first stitch is. So I'm gonna take my hand again, and this is on your side, so you might be able to see it. I run my finger or my hand up. Well, I'm gonna start out with this side by just pinching it and pushing that seam out. And then I'm gonna take my little iron. If it was a big iron, it'd be a big iron. But my little iron from the Temu, because in a pinch, that's the only iron I've got. And I'm just gonna run it down this seam. And I'm gonna keep pinching and rolling. Now that's about enough. I'm gonna run my hand up the fabric here, and I'm going to just keep pushing that seam out and ironing it down. So we want it to be just like that, as close to the edge as possible, because we're going to stitch down both sides again. And I have the stitch done. I just fold this out on both sides and take my little iron, and I'm going to just run down to set the stitches. But I've already done the one side. This is my second side, and I laid it flat to make sure that, but see, look, since it's a French seam, this is finished and the outside's finished. So you have no ravelings. Well, I have no ravelings. Well, my niece is going to have no ravelings because this is for her. The next thing we have to do is move on to the interface. Oh, that stresses me out, but it's going to be done soon. This is a simple pattern. Supposed to be able to get it done in one day. So I'm going to move on to the interface. I did the same French seam on the interfacing. So French seam means the inside is finished and the outside is finished. So there's going to be no ravelings. Now, I labeled one of these the back and the front, but my brain takes a minute to figure out how these gotta line up. So this has buttons, is designed to have buttons, so like these it doesn't get sewed together. So these are longer, this is shorter, so this is the back. So you take the inner facing, slip it over, and I have my blanket clips. And so just for a loose thing, I'm going to take my blanket clip, line this one up, and then go here. This should line up. This is just make sure we got everything. And then this is the back. Line these up. And then blanket clip. And then this other side and blanket clip. Now I'm going to also, so I'm just going to make sure, check everything, and I'm going to go around, make sure everything's lined up as good as it can be, and then blanket clip everything, and then I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm going to stitch the inner facing. So we're getting closer. Closer. So I've got it clipped everywhere. I'm going to go stitch the inner facing, and other than the pockets, because of that French seam, I really think this is probably the best thing that I've ever made. Like, I'm taking my time, I'm using my iron, using the little marks to match up the lining, or the little marks on the pattern. So I think this is going to be the best thing. So after I get that done, I'm going to use my fancy roller foot to roll the hem, stitch that. I'm also going to do that to this, but I got to make a buttonhole. But the good thing is my Euroshark Pro sewing machine has a buttonhole. It has a buttonhole like presser foot and setting on the machine. I've used it a couple of times, but I've never really used it functionally for a garment. So this is the first time for everything. So I'll be using that the first time today. So I'm gonna go stitch this, be back with you. So I'm back. So I got it stitched. And I've started to, so the inner facing is stitched. I'm flipping it inside out. And I'm pressing to try to get all these flat. And I hope they all have the same curve. I tried really hard to follow the thing, but the little edges up here are curved. So, let's see here. And then I'm going to try to do the same thing to push the seams out to get as much of that fabric that we're supposed to see out as much. So there's one little curve. How cute is that? I don't know if I'm thinking about going around to stitch this because I couldn't do a French seam or anything on this. I'll let you know. But well, now let me flip my other one out. So that's it. That's the front right now. I got it ironed, and I have decided I'm going to go ahead and stitch around this. It didn't say to do it, but I'm going to do it in pink. So it holds the inner facing down, and then I'm going to go back inside with my rolling hem foot, and I'm going to get this rolled up just like the bottom. So that's what I've got left to do. I'm going to stitch around this in pink. I am going to do a hem stitch on the inner facing, and I'm going to do the hem stitch around the bottom. And then the very last thing is to take these edges and just hand stitch this here so it doesn't flip up. And then, well, that's not the last step. I got to put the buttons on and the buttonholes. So we're not done. But I'm going to stitch.